Hello. I think it is. I think it's day. I think it's day 7. I'm. I've got my book here, my journal. Speaking to my friend Sam, and I kind of don't know. Like I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I suppose somehow we're at 7 entries. I still haven't posted anything on YouTube, but I have sent the video I took yesterday after speaking mostly about my the impact of my ADHD diagnosis to my stepdad and for my mum, because she can't use the computer and we can't really speak over the phone or anything, so I thought it might be useful for her to listen to. And also an ex partner of my ex-girlfriend of mine, Emily, who I kind of trust to, I suppose, like, it's like wondering, should I post these? Do I want to post these? And I have sent it to them to have a listen to. One, because I think that they will find it interesting. I hope they find it interesting, as a friend and as an ex-partner, but mostly as a friend. And I guess looking for some kind of support, maybe not support's not the right word, some kind of encouragement maybe, and like, hey, yeah, like, why don't you actually, you know what, this is interesting, and like, why don't you should share this, it might help someone. That's ultimately, I'll help myself and to help someone else, I think, is the goal of this kind of whole process. And yeah, to continue kind of finding my voice. And also I'm just finding this, as I said to my friend Sam today after I mentioned I've been doing this, I was like, it's like journaling, but it's just really efficient for me to speak through these things as an external process. And I do really enjoy journaling. Like for instance, I actually made my first kind of proper journal entry in the back of here earlier today. And that's nice. I love that. And I love treating a book like this, a journal like this, as like an artifact of my life. And it's why I value the one that it's why I value this journal covered in dust, Yona, a bar in Kyoto that I visited. And actually, a note from Emily in here, right there. I've actually like tagged this one out a little bit, but this is from 2015, so over 10 years ago, and in it contains drawings from my trip to Japan, little notes and poems and things I wanted to remember, and sketches of buildings, and it's so interesting because I was actually, in speaking with people about the kind of creativity that I feel like I used to have in my early 20s, or the creativity that I articulated, experienced, let out, engaged with in my early 20s. I was doing so with this like freedom, this kind of liberated like pursuit of like, yeah, kind of, wow, this feels right, and it feels, I'm just going to try this and try that, and I'm going to maybe I'll look a little strange, or people, I wasn't even concerned about that actually. I really felt like I was stepping into adulthood with this new found capacity to just do what I want and pursue these interests in a way that was really authentic, without fear of kind of being embarrassed or in spite of that. And that really diminished, that went away. I think what was interesting is I was talking to someone about this recently, it maps against my mental illness, my mental health challenges rather, at that age, where I was very depressed. I experienced a lot of depression, a lot of mental instability, a lot of major emotional dysregulation, a lot of anxiety, resulting from a variety of things that I probably won't speak about publicly, but I'm doing these creative pursuits. For instance, right, one of the things I really love doing, and I actually did as part of this trip, was something that I called drift mapping, which is like I guess an experiential framework or methodology for experiencing cities or space, but let's say cities. In my mind, it was really namely for cities. That was based on my reading of a kind of this design theory from France in the 1950s and 1960s. If I can remember correctly, it's the Situationists in France who spoke of this term dérive, and I'm not pronouncing that right, but that in French. And my understanding, at least at the time, was that there were these kind of urban philosophers, modern philosophers that were, architects, urban planners, etc., that were trying to develop a new way of understanding the city through experience. And for whatever reason, I kind of captured or found this idea of drift in their work. And I'd started doing this thing called drift mapping that I call drift mapping. And the first time I did it was my first trip to Melbourne in 2015 in early May. And what I did is I stayed at a friend's place in East Brunswick or West Brunswick, I think it was. I got on a tram. I'd never been to Melbourne before. And I just got off the tram at a point where I was like, oh, this seems like the right spot. And for the next 6 hours, I wandered through the city, street to street, laneway to interesting point of interest. And what I was doing is I had a journal and I just notated, timestamp, street name. I went right down here. I overheard this conversation, but just snippets, fragments expressed as notes and sketches. Not necessarily first person, but just like imprinting, or reprinting my experience in a fragmented sense in this text. And for me to be able to look back on that, it just brings back this rich tapestry of experience that I developed as a result of that 6 hours of wandering through the city aimlessly, or what maybe would have seemed to, if you followed me around, you'd be like, what is going on? What I'm doing during that process is I'm wandering through the city, allowing my intuition to take charge as to where I go and what I find interesting. If something sparks my interest, I can feel multiple layers of my mind assessing different elements of the city and shuffling through the deck of those interests, and then going this one, and I just go there and I just follow that intuitive kind of drive, this spark, and you can feel that. It's like this discerning feeling of not that, until you're just going that as you're moving through space, and you're being drawn through the city in a way that feels formless, but it also has some kind of framework, but you're not necessarily able to articulate what that framework is. It's a feeling or a sense. And I think that for me, what I find really interesting is there's this internal intuitive intention behind the decision making that's going on that isn't determined by a set of goals, but is determined by a subconscious set of interests that you're trying to get in tune with. And that's why if you apply that methodology, each individual is going to be pulled through the city in a different way. So rather than having this externalized goal by which you experience the city, you try to align your movement with your internal value set, and thereby you map your sense of self and you map your identity through the city based on what your intuition draws you to, right? I actually was trying to develop a thesis or a framework for that in my first year of university, and I got about halfway through the year doing this in my Design Futures honours degree, and my then thesis head person came back from maternity leave and was like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And that's fair enough. There was no rigor to it. There was no, it was totally me just having this passion and wanting to express it, and express it in like a formal framework like university, validate it in some sense. And to be honest with you, I think that was a bit of a turning point for me, because that really, as a formative designer, as a formative person, leaving university and entering into the workforce soon after, I don't think I really recognized it at that time, and really probably haven't only just clocking it as I'm speaking about it right now, that was probably a pretty big turning point for me in terms of it stunted a bit of my creative expression. Another thing I was doing during that period was I would go to, and I did this again in Melbourne, and I did it later in Japan. We'll get to that. We'll come back to that again, because both of these things map over into this trip I did to Japan, which is what this book is all about. Another thing I was doing at the time was wrapping my face in a jacket and holding a camera and walking through the Botanic Gardens nearby a tree and slowly finding my way to the tree or through the hedge and around in this garden, in the landscape. And I'm doing it by smell, I'm doing it by haptic feedback through my feet, understanding where I am on the grass, the feeling of topology. It's really proprioceptive experience, and that kind of blindness, imposed blindness, for me was just trying to explore, like, amplifying my other sense perceptions and then mapping space in an immediate sense. So understanding space through the haptic feedback and through auditory mapping. And in some sense, I think that extends to my meditative practice. Now I find one of the strongest experiences I have when I'm meditating is, and I will do this with intention occasionally, I will sit, and once I fall in deeper and deeper and deeper, I get to a level where if I feel like it, or if my intuition takes me there, my buddhi, my kind of higher mind, can start to frame my experience through the lens of disintegration, of amalgamation with the outside world, where I start to recognize that my sense of self, my identity, and my being, my presence, isn't contained solely to the most gross manifest layer of my body, but extends to the outreach of, at the very least, my sensory perception. So all of a sudden, when, the eyes are the faculty of distance, and when we remove the faculty of distance, everything becomes immediate. The bird chirping in the distance no longer exists in the distance, no longer is there in reality, but exists purely in my mind or at the threshold of my sense perception organs. And so with that reduction in sense of separation from my sensory experience, my body starts to feel permeable. My spirit starts to feel like it permeates beyond my body, and it feels like, at the same time, as though the world outside myself permeates my body and exists and emerges from within myself. And there's this feeling of like flowing movement between my inner world and my outer world until they actually just become this single soup. And my presence then extends out. And I think that's so interesting for me, to go from very obviously material, this is my body, etc., to these are things outside myself, to then going, okay, well, my sense of self, or my what I can recognize as myself, extends to the extent of my sensory perception. And the sensory perception, my sense organs are really my second order self. And then I think, then I start to wonder, well, for the things that are even more subtle than that, they speak about this in the Yoga Sutras. Patanjali speaks about the 5 koshas, from the gross manifest body to, I believe, the sense organs, to the breath body, the wisdom body, which is the buddhi, and then the blissful body, which is kind of the divine energy that exists within you. I may have got them wrong, but bear with me. Anyway, it's interesting now that I think, for me, it's interesting to think back at that I was pursuing that kind of experience as like this artistic kind of expression, and that I am now recycling that same pursuit, and it has informed my meditative practice. This is the first time I've made this link back to this experience I was pursuing, generating in my youth. Okay, so drift mapping, sensory perception mapping. Book. I suddenly become aware of my my I've become aware of myself. I think when I'm speaking like that, I kind of I go into a bit of a different mode. I'm trying to find the left-right directive. So I took from Melbourne on that first drift map, that 6 hours, I took the left, right, right, left, right, as in down, like left down Elizabeth Street, right down Sand Lane, left down Swanston Street, right down Lonsdale Street, etc., etc. I took the left, right directives and I mapped them out in this book. I'm just going to take a few breaths and I'm going to flick through here and I'll show you here's a cute little drawing, the view from Golden Guy, view of Golden Guy from my my capsule hotel window, and I can remember precisely. I can now map this. Looking at this just triggers a whole flood of memories. I can map out the floor plate of that hotel, I think, quite accurately, and I can remember the colors, and it all just starts to build up like a 3D model in my head. And I can remember the experience of standing in the kind of common eating area, and off to the left at the edge of the building there's a small smoking room, and standing in the smoking room with my book and having a cigarette, and there being a Japanese man to the left of me having a cigarette and kind of having a little peer over. And yeah, that's what these books are really good for. Just brings back a really rich and specific memory for me that I otherwise might not think about for a long time, and that's okay. But I can say that it's a pretty joyous experience to open this book up and just go, holy moly. Talk about getting value out of like a trip. When I look back through this, it's strong. Here we go. Yeah, left, right. So it was in Kyoto. Left, right, right, left, right, right. So then I mapped my drift map, my intuitive led mapping of Melbourne over the top of Kyoto. So I superimposed previous experience into Kyoto and experienced the city in that way. And it was actually during this drift map that I walked past a bar, looked inside, nodded at two Japanese men who were in this little izakaya having a cigarette, took a few more steps, stopped, turned around, went into the bar, introduced myself. One of them spoke English, Kenkichi. The other guy, Nori, no English. And the guys behind the bar, a little bit of English. I spent this was probably about 11 p.m. It's raining outside. I spent the next 4 to 5 hours with these guys drinking, and they took me to a few different bars. Kenkichi walked me back to my hotel, stayed there the night, got up the next day. Nori, these guys are a couple, like maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than me. You know, I was 22 at the time, they're maybe 40, 45. Really lovely guys. Nori, a businessman, no English, owns a house out in the Hiroshima Hills that survived the bombing, the Hiroshima bombing in like 1945. Takes a day off work, picks me up. We drive out there, takes an hour and a half, and we're just grunting and laughing at each other, pointing at things, and awesome. Whole day basically in silence, except these little mute kind of expressions and communications. You kind of enter. Talk about going from like English speaking to then Japan for the first time, my first trip overseas by myself, to then going a level below that and just like not only not speaking English, but not speaking at all, and just having this like kind of like very base level communication style. Really fun. Went out there, had a beautiful day. Got back to Hiroshima. He was like, stay at my apartment for the next couple of nights. I was supposed to leave. I stayed there. I spent the next like 3 days hanging out with these dudes after they finished work, drinking, eating. They took me to all these restaurants. Had my first okonomiyaki with them. Phenomenal. Like so good. I left them a letter before I left Hiroshima in 2015, July. I returned 9 years later, 8 or 9 years later, having not spoken, had seen them a year later because Kenkichi opened a restaurant, which he was telling me about wanting to do when I first met him. That was a big thing. That was a big point of our conversation, our friendship at the start, was him saying, I want to start a restaurant. I've been working for this person for 20 years. They took me off the street. I don't think I can, I don't think I should, I don't want to dishonor myself, right? Was his thinking. And, me, I'm young, drinking, do it. No, it's good. I think you've done the right thing. And as long as you blah, I'm a grommet. And having this conversation with him, I do get an email from him 6 months later saying I'm opening the restaurant. I book a ticket with my friend Ken, head back over 6 months later, so a year after I met him, go and eat at the restaurant, have an absolute blast. Anyway, since that point, hadn't seen him for about 7 or 8 years by this point. Let's call it 8. I go with my friend Sam, who's been living in Japan for almost a year at this stage. Maybe 8 months learning Japanese. He's in the military. He was doing an exchange kind of language learning thing, and I've been yarning to him for years. Oh, this guy Kenkichi and Nori had this great experience, and they're friends, blah blah. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I'm just yarning, and I've set up these huge expectations. And I think to Sam's credit, he was trying to maybe dampen. We were going. So essentially, I visited Japan. We've made our way down through Osaka, Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. Now we're back in Hiroshima. First time for me in 8 years, and I'm gonna surprise him at the restaurant. And Sam's understandably a bit nervous, I think, being dude, you've got your hopes up really heaps. You keep talking about this, and it's and they might just not remember you, dude. You're just a relative, kind of you are he wasn't saying this, but it was kind of it seemed a bit nervous. And maybe this is me going maybe they won't remember me. This is my own nervousness, but I was confident they would. In any case, rock up, open the fucking curtains, the thing. Kenkichi's over there, drops the knife, looks up, looks at me, drops his knives. The full restaurant, drops his knives, walks over. Oh my God, it's you. And I was like, yeah, so how long's it been? It's been 8 years, such and such. He's like, we're full. Can you come back? Can you come back at 10 when we finish? Come back 10:30 with them, 6 o'clock in the morning, smashed. Me, Sam comes. Kenkichi's there, his workers are there. Nori rocks up with this crew of Japanese people I met last time I was there, when we were out drinking, the first time, right? What the fuck? And he comes in and he brings out this little Ziploc bag, and inside the Ziploc bag is my letter that I wrote to him saying, thank you for your hospitality, thanks for having me in your place and showing me around Hiroshima. And I was, you know what I mean? I burst out crying. 30 minutes, every time I looked at the fucking thing, crying. Geez, that meant a lot to me. I think it clearly meant a lot to them. And I think after, being a grommet, being 21, 22, whatever at the time, and going back when I'm more of a fully fledged adult, and being worried, do they going to remember? Or two, am I just being silly? I had this experience with them. Maybe it's not that important to them, understandably, and to me, it was really formative because I was so young and it was my first trip overseas, and I was engaging in this type of drift mapping, and I felt like I drift mapped, superimposed. I felt like I'd found my way there, and there was something guiding me there. That's what a lot of this, if it's not obvious, is about living kind of in flow, at least for some period of time. And I think there was this real deep sense of connectedness and to them as a result of that process, and because of how hospitable they were, and just how important that experience was for me. It was just incredible. It was one of the best things that happened to me in my life up to that point, and I've held on to that for many, many years. And then to see that it was, at least to some degree, felt important enough for them to keep the letter, and that to me, brought me to tears. I was so proud and so happy of that in that moment of my decision to go and do that. And yeah, it was a cool culmination of feelings. In Japan, I have a video on my Facebook page. Maybe I'll try and find it and actually put it up on YouTube. Or maybe I can link it at the back of this video. I also was in a garden and wrapped in Tokyo, in near Shinjuku, and wrapped my, I think it's like Gyoen. No, it's not that one. It's a different park. Nevertheless, filmed myself, wrapped this green jacket around my thing and film myself walking through a tree and kind of finding my way through a tree. I love that shit. I love that fucking shit. And now, you know, I guess I haven't felt as connected to that creativity, that degree of just pursuing this, this beautiful way of looking at the world, this beautiful way of interacting with the world. And I think it's always still been here, but I don't know, I'm leaning back in. And I couldn't be happier about it. Can't even remember what I was talking about when I started this video, this journal entry. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, I've really, that was nice. I haven't actually articulated that intense a perspective on the nature of that practice of drift mapping. And it makes me proud to think that, I feel good about that, you know? So, I don't know what to say right now. I guess we're 27 minutes, and gotta say I am enjoying the videos. I'm enjoying the video journaling. Yeah, dude. I don't know. I do not know. I'm really excited for this Mongolia trip. Oh my God, I am. Check out this. That is from a drift map in Kyoto. All of those notes, that is first right, 2 photos and such, and then I've got like, you can see it, you can tell it's at university. That there is the number 1, and it says, it has become clear that the exposed excess of technological services power that lines and grows and crosses the lanes here and in Tokyo act almost metaphorically as modern torii gates. They are also figurative and literally connected to each building with the others in its environment, and canopy the lanes. That's just what I guess, that's actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to read through this. That note is reference 1. And if I read through this, these things here, I'll find, see, I can see reference 2 there. So I think reference 1 somewhere, right? So let's look at number 2. So that says here, first right, 1, there we go. Okay, then photo west, Ferrari parking. So then reference 2, the parking space is attached to one of the more Western style buildings, wide, 3 stories, Italian aesthetic, mixed. Forgot my umbrella. Comes to realization I'm walking back down a street already walked. Q, primary school. I can only mildly suppress my annoyance towards doubling roads and crossing routes when mapping. Difficulties illustrating. I'm getting frustrated because I've been wandering around, and then my intuition has mapped me back through a street I've already walked on, and I'm going to be fucking annoyed about that because I want to make a map and it's going to be hard to show the route going down where a route's already gone, because it's going to look annoying to me in the visual output. Right turn down Fugiano Duri, 15 minutes east of Cafe. It's so odd. Though stylistically within cluster, not shocking. To see a building using arches in this something, it is mixed contextually with an ad hoc additional floors, forms almost hidden from something, as if embarrassingly confused. Here we go. Here. Okay. Reference 10. I recognize today, the 23rd of the 7th, 2015, as the best day for myself, literally my and self, since coming to Japan. Following yesterday's re-entry into light literature and thinking, I'm only ever contented learning. That's a note from being at Roanji, where I sat at a rock garden that's now tattooed on my chest. I remember now with a academic paper about Roanji Rock Garden I printed out at university to read about this place. Connect that drift mapping is meditation in movement, where the product, process, or outcome is clarity of mind, found in the written and thought actualization of creative thought. It is a mixture of creative thinking concepts. 1. Walking increases creativity. 2. Thought actualization in notes that are creatively inspired and structured. 3. Focused mind through clarity of presentness and environments engaged leads to states of peacefulness and an underlying happiness generated by persistent creative thought. 4. A tool for the production of primary inspiration and thinking that grounds intellectual concepts and provides a real-time platform from which to extend and reflect upon them. Oh. Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Last night I also did a full 60 minutes and filmed a full 60 minutes of me going through the whole yoga sequence, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really excited about tomorrow. I'm thinking that I'm going to do carry out a few more practice runs and this evening and maybe a couple tomorrow, and just keep it chill, stay relaxed tonight. Going tomorrow feeling happy, feeling inspired, feeling generous, feeling positive, feeling welcoming, enthusiastic, bright, light, calm, confident and prepared. Feeling good. I hope you are as well. If you made it all the way to the end of this video after all of that, then fucking sick. If it's just me watching this and I'm now 35, or I'm 40, or I'm 45, or I'm 50, or I'm 60, or I'm 70, or I'm 80, or if you're my kid, or you're my parent, or a friend watching this, I love you very much, and I always will love you very much, and I'm proud of you. And whatever is going on at the moment, I wish you all the best, and I wish strength and peace upon you. So yeah, I love you. Mackies. Ring. Oh, that's one that makes me want to delete the whole video. Right, see ya.